From the WMSC studios, this is Sean Martin, staff writer for InsideTheStar.com and Cowboys Nation, and we are getting you ready for the biggest Cowboys game of the season, just about 20 minutes up the road, actually, MetLife Stadium, home of the New York Giants. Cowboys and Giants going at it again for the first time since Week 1 this Sunday night. Of course, the Giants are the only team to hand the 11-1 Cowboys a loss so far this season, so fast forward to where we are now. The Cowboys winners of 11 straight, coming off of a win against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, so they've had a little bit of a mini bye week, as we've been calling it, to get ready for this Sunday night game. A Sunday night game where they could clinch the division, and depending on what happens earlier in the day with some of the other NFC teams, they might have a chance to clinch the number 1 seed, clinch home field advantage, so a lot on the line for the Cowboys, and of course a lot on the line for the Giants as well, a team that, no matter what the circumstances are, will always play this Cowboys team tough. So here with us to preview a little bit more about the Giants coming into this game is NJ Advanced Media Giants beat writer James Kratch. You can find James's work at nj.com. James, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Sean. How are you?
I am doing great. So let's start with the big injury news coming into this game on the Giants side of things, most notably defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul, injured in that Steelers game, going to be out for some time, including this game, of course. Who are the Giants really looking at to step up in the absence of Pierre-Paul, a player that historically, has always been consistently good, but he's always had his best games against the Cowboys. So who are they looking at, not only in the long term, as far as who can rush off that edge, opposite of Olivier Vernon, of course, but here against the Cowboys, knowing that you have Doug Free at right tackle, probably the only potential weak spot on this Cowboys offensive line, who are they trying to put over there to get the same pass rush that they've gotten out of Pierre-Paul?
It's going to be tough, and I think it's not going to be one person to say. It's going to be 3 main guys. Kerry Wynn, he's an undrafted rookie. Not undrafted rookie. He was an undrafted free agent. He's been in the league a couple of years. Really strong run defender. Not as much of a pass rush. He's only got 2 sacks in his career. And they've got 2 young guys. Undrafted rookie Romeo Okwara. He's kind of emerged, I think, all things considered, the third end. I think you'll probably see Wynn maybe will start the game, in a base package, but you'll see Okwara in there on passing down. He doesn't have a sack yet in his NFL career, but he's flashed at times in the preseason and somewhat in the regular season. And you've got Ola Odigizua, last year's third-round pick, basically missed his entire rookie season due to injuries. He had a good preseason, hasn't done a whole heck of a lot in the regular season, hasn't got a whole lot of opportunities, but he missed last week's game against the Steelers with a knee injury. It looks like he should be able to play on Sunday, but it's not 100% sure. But he was kind of coming on strong before the knee injury. So they're going to those 3 key guys. I think you also could see strong side linebacker Devon Kennard maybe walked up a little bit in pass rushing situations on the end. But for the most part, it's going to be those 3 guys. And they readily admit that no one player is going to replace JPP. It's really a devastating blow for this defense and for this team, especially when you're going to go against the Cowboys and their offensive line. But they're kind of hoping that those 3 guys, the sum of their parts will be something equal to Pierre-Paul.
Right, so overall on this defense, sticking with the defensive line and the front 7, how confident is this Giants team and this defensive line as a whole that they can duplicate what they did in Week 1 against this Cowboys offensive line and against, Ezekiel Elliott playing in his first game? They held Elliott to just 51 yards on 20 carries in that game, and then, ever since they've seen Elliott really blossom into what we all expected him to be behind this Cowboys line when they drafted him at 4th overall. He has been great. Obviously Dak Prescott in the backfield as well. The other rookie has progressed as well. So obviously the Giants understand that they have a whole different test coming into this game facing those 2. But how confident are they that what they did in Week 1 was, something that can be duplicated here on Sunday night?
I think they're very confident. I mean, they have the league's 5th-ranked rush defense. Jonathan Hankins, Damon Harrison are still going to be there in the middle. You got Vernon on the edge. But, I would expect them to be confident. I mean, they're an 8-4 football team. They've had a really good defensive season, and they've done it before. But from an outsider's perspective, I just look at the Cowboys team, and I just see a team that's drastically different from what they were in Week 1, especially when it gets to Dak and Zeke. So I think the Giants are really going to have their hands full on Sunday.
Ben McAdoo has really been giving a lot of praise to this Cowboys offense and even pointed out a couple of defenders that are playing pretty well for Dallas right now. You think back to this rivalry between the Giants and the Cowboys when it was Tom Coughlin over on the sideline for the Giants. Coming into a game like this, you would always be worried as a Cowboys fan, that the Giants were going to get this win or at least make it probably your toughest game of the season. Always incredibly competitive. Always knew how to rally his guys for any big game, but especially the big games against Dallas. So now under McAdoo, he's trying to get this team bounced back after a loss. He's trying to still stay alive in this NFC East race, and trying to not let the Cowboys clinch the NFC East on their home field. What's kind of been his message to the team this week and in the press conferences to you guys? What has he kind of been emphasizing as far as, we understand we beat this team once, but we have to kind of stay even-headed here, because if we get too ahead of ourselves, the Cowboys are going to win their 12th straight game?
I really don't think Dave spent much time, externally projecting outward on this game. I think that their main focus is they take it week by week. And, with JPP being out, kind of the rally cry this week has been all hands on deck. They need all hands on deck. A bunch of players have been saying, which means that clearly McAdoo is kind of drumming that into their minds. But I think the Giants are just, McAdoo always says they have to get better at getting better. And you look at this offense, it's struggled mightily recently. And it's a major issue, and it had the issue with Cruz not getting any targets and throwing Shepard the week before. So I don't think so much the Giants are worried about the Cowboys. I'm sure obviously they want to beat the Cowboys, and they would prefer to not have the Cowboys clinch the East at MetLife Stadium. But I think the Giants are more focused on themselves because, the division's, that's, you can say you're playing for the division, but the division hasn't been on the table realistically for weeks now. This team has got to make a push to the wild card. You've got Tampa Bay and Washington nipping at their heels. You've got teams below them that they've already lost to that are getting themselves back in the playoff picture. So the Giants need to focus on themselves and getting their offense right for these final four games.
So plenty of veterans here on this Giants team that Cowboys fans are all familiar with that will have them focused, and this should be a great game. So getting into the Giants offense, they had their 6-game winning streak snapped at the Steelers. Manning threw 2 interceptions in that game. Cowboys defense has forced just 2 turnovers in the last 5 games overall. So, looking at this Giants offense, we know the names that are probably going to have a big game, and if not, the Giants are going to be in a world of trouble. We know Manning is going to bounce back. We know Odell Beckham's going to get his targets and make the explosive plays that we've all seen him play. Who else outside of those expected names do you really need to see step up for the Giants offense to potentially stick with the Cowboys in what could be a shootout type of game?
I think the running game has to step up. Remains to be seen if Shane Green will be activated by IR for the game. If he is, and they need him. They need Paul Perkins. They need Rashad Jennings. I also think Will Tye, the tight end, is a guy who, the tight end position, it's really been kind of a weakness for the Giants this year. But Tye has proven that he can make plays. I think they need to make him to make plays consistently, and him and Gerald Adams need to block, and that will kind of help out that run game. But I just, the Giants' offense is just not getting the job done 12 games in. It's been kind of a surprise given what they expected to be. And they got to get the ship right fast, because as I said earlier, you got 4 games left. You've got a very crowded NFC wildcard mix. I think the Giants would be devastated if they learned that they started 8-3 and they missed the playoffs. But I think it's very much on the table if they don't get their act together.
Another sore spot for the Giants offensively, and not only just in the Steelers game, but ongoing now, is the struggles for left tackle Eric Flowers. Now, this is an interesting matchup, just talking about who Flowers is going to line up against on this Cowboys defense. It's almost a wash, neutralized as far as who's going to get the better of this, because the Cowboys, they've shuffled through some guys at that right defensive end position. They don't really have a true speed rusher that you like to get off that edge. They've moved to Marcus Lawrence, their best rusher overall, back and forth a bit just to try to figure out some way to get production from that spot. So what do you see coming out of this matchup, if anything? Do you agree that it's just going to be something that kind of neutralizes itself because Flowers is going to be going against defensive ends that he can handle, or do you think that he can really step up and help the Giants running game and really have his best game of the season and get himself right down the stretch? Or do you see any Cowboys defenders that have been talked about over with the Giants side of things that can have their way against Flowers surprisingly a bit?
Yeah, no, Flowers had a really, really bad game against the Packers early in the season. He bounced back the next week pretty well. So I wouldn't go as far as say he'll have his best game of the season, but I do think that given the fact that the Cowboys don't have a tremendously great productive pass rush, that this could be a game where Flowers kind of has a similar bounce-back performance. I think we'll probably skew more towards the, neutralizing, everything kind of cancels each other out. But no, I definitely think that's one of the key things for the Giants, and one of the reasons why I think they've got a shot to win on Sunday night is because the Cowboys don't have a tremendous pass rush to their offensive line, which has been up and down this year, and is a little bit banged up, can kind of adjust from there.
How closely do you think this game, all the writers coming into these games, you try to get at least some sense of how you think it's going to play out? That obviously doesn't carry too much weight because you end up, watching these games and it's usually drastically different. But just coming into this game, and I'm sure this will change before Sunday, but when you're getting ready for the Sunday night football game, how closely are you expecting this to resemble the Week 1 matchup between these two teams where it was kind of sloppy on both ends? You could tell that on the Cowboys side of things, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, you could tell that they weren't, in their preseason form where they were loose and playing free and playing well. They were a little bit uptight, and that let the Giants' defense make plays. Manning took it from there and threw the game-winning touchdown, and that was the story of, how the Giants handed the Cowboys their only loss so far this season. So how closely do you think we're going to see a similar game, or if not, what are you expecting? Will it be a high-scoring shootout, an even more defensive game? What are some of your thoughts coming into a game overall that's just very unpredictable these past couple of seasons?
I think it's going to be pretty much, what we saw in Week 1. Obviously, it looks like it might snow or at least have some snow on Sunday night in East Rutherford, so that could play into this thing. But I just think it's kind of a slugfest like it was in Week 1. Maybe, I just think two teams that, the Giants' offense isn't that great. I think the Giants' defense will have some success against the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to have all the success they need to have to win the game, but I do think they'll be able to get to Elliott in the run game and get to Dak to a point. I do think they'll generate some pass rush. I don't know how much of a pass rush they will, but no, I think it's going to be kind of a close game, and I think it's a game that is really close into the fourth quarter. But I think Dallas eventually will wear the Giants out in the end and pull away.
As someone that's watched this Cowboys team all season, kind of secondhand, since you're covering the Giants, is there a better team in your opinion that's more fit to win, a game that might be played in the snow, or win a bad weather game, especially on the road? Is there a team more fit to do that than the Cowboys in this league right now, with the way this offensive line travels and the way that they can be comfortable turning around, handing the ball to Ezekiel Elliott 20, 25, 30 times like a workhorse back that no other team really has right now, and get results out of him?
No. I think this Dallas team pretty much is got it drawn up the way you want it to be to win these games in December on the road in the elements. In terms of best team in the NFL, I think the Cowboys have to be considered that now. I do wonder what's going to happen down the road, and if they play Seattle or New England or Kansas City or Oakland, not so much Oakland because their defense is poor, but Kansas City or New England in the Super Bowl, and they force Dak to make all the plays to beat them. But no, this team is really built, I think, for December football, which is kind of unique because obviously they play indoors, and they have had most of their games down the stretch indoors. Obviously, the Vikings game was indoors as well. And the Giants, who are kind of built like a dome team, that they play outdoors. So I definitely think the Cowboys have the edge if the elements come into play on Sunday night.
And then the last way here, we're talking with James Kratch, NJ.com, New York Giants beat writer. Another player I wanted to ask about on the Giants defense, Janoris Jenkins, another one of those big offseason free agent acquisitions. He's kind of still getting the feel for how fans, particularly New York fans, respond to a guy that's making so much. When you have your good games, you'll be praised. Bad game, it's an up and down roller coaster type of thing when you get that much money as a defensive back in this league, and you have to go against some of the top receivers that we have here in the NFC East and around the league. So he draws a matchup once again with Dez Bryant. What are you hearing from Jenkins coming into this game? Jenkins' teammates. The Giants secondary has really stepped up these past couple weeks. All the Cowboys fans are certainly aware of Landon Collins coming into this game and the way he's developed this season to something that we really never expected him to be. So you have Collins to help out. You have a pass rush that, like you said, can hopefully affect Dak Prescott a little bit. But overall, it's going to be Jenkins against Bryant as a kind of really a key game within the game here to get Dez Bryant, the number one Cowboys receiver, going on the Dallas offense.
Yeah, Dez had one catch for 8 yards in the opener. I don't think that the Giants are going to hold Dez to one catch again on Sunday night. But Jenkins, every time he's faced an elite receiver, Antonio Brown last week had a touchdown catch, but it was a circus grab, and they kind of kept him contained for the most part. A.J. Green earlier in the year, Jenkins did relatively well against Terrell Pryor when they played the Browns. He's proven to be worth his money. He's been a kind of a lockdown cornerback against the team's number one receivers. So I do expect Dez to make some plays on Sunday night. I think it's pretty hard to keep him basically 0 for the season in 2 games, but I think the Giants, they're going to try to make it so Dez doesn't wreck the game for them. Now, tight end's been a major issue for the Giants, so that could very easily keep Dez under control, but Jason Witten could wreck the game. I think he's another guy they really have to take care of. And Cole Beasley also has a tendency to kind of beat them up on third downs out of the slot. So, no, all things considered, I think Jenkins has played really well. I think the secondary is a bright spot for the Giants going up against the Cowboys. But I do expect Dez to do something on Sunday night, because I just have a hard time thinking they're going to shut him down for 2 games.
So it is the Cowboys and the Giants from MetLife Stadium on Sunday Night Football, so you'll get to sit back, watch Sunday's slate of games. Again, the implications for the Cowboys is that depending on what happens earlier in the day with the Seahawks and the Lions, you could have a chance to not only clinch the NFC East, but the first-round bye and home field advantage. My fellow staff writer, O.J. Ochoa, actually wrote an article about why Cowboys fans might want to actually root for just being able to clinch the division and have to work a little bit harder for the rest of the playoff, home field and 1 seed, things like that, just to keep these 2 rookies in Prescott and Elliott, to keep this young team, focused for a longer period of time going into the playoffs. But regardless, their focus is on the Giants. The Giants' focus is on the Cowboys. Some great insight here from, again, NJ.com beat writer for NJ Advanced Media, James Kratch. You can go follow him on Twitter at James Kratch, Kratch, the last name there. James, thanks for your time, and have fun on Sunday. This is going to be a really good game, and we'll all enjoy watching this one.
My pleasure, Sean. Thank you.
And with that, we'll talk to you again on Sunday Night Football.